Hi, for this video lecture, I'm going to show you a sample program for I/O, assembly language program for I/O. So specifically, we are going to mm, supposedly print something in a printer at Ateneo de Zamboanga University to be printed, but you will see later on that instead of printing at Ateneo de Zamboanga University in a real printer, this will just be emulated. So you just see an emulator. You just emulated the output. Okay, so anyway, because of that, I'd like to share my experience about assembly language. So it has been a long time since I've taught assembly language, probably more than 10 years. So back when I was still teaching assembly language, the programs that I have developed or created run in the computer, not the computer itself, not in an emulator. So I used A86 before. So it's a 16-bit program. You can no longer run 16-bit nowadays. You will need a virtual box before you can run 16-bit application. So the A86 is a 16-bit application, 16-bit program. So during my experience, when I create programs, especially programs that involves I/O like this one, I will really see an output, a printed Ateneo de Zamboanga University in a paper when I put a paper in a printer and then I'll run this program. But nowadays, wala na. I can no longer do that. I have created programs that will beep, that will make a sound. I've also created a program that will open and close the casing for your what do you call that, disk, the CD. You can control the opening and close there. I've also created a program that will connect me, interfacing program that will connect my printer port, and then I will create some, instead of using microcontroller, I'm going to use the power of my computer to do some stuff. So we can do that in assembly language. But nowadays, probably because of the danger that assembly language brings into the computer system, so puro emulator na lang. You can no longer run it as easily as before. Of course, during my time, I've also have to reinstall computers many times because my computer affected the computer. My some of my programs affected the computer. So reinstallation has to be done and those kind of stuff. So there's really dangers when you run assembly language, especially if you're not that familiar with the code, or you just copy and paste some dangerous code included in your code, and could destroy your program, your hardware, and some of the components in your computer. So anyway, uh, because of that, and because of this experience, and because of the limitation of our emulator, there will be some discussion about I/O, how to program how to program I/O, how to use assembly language to program some I/O. Those will no longer be discussed here. Probably you just have to read on them, and probably you if you really want to learn about them, they're very easy, and you just have to know which interrupt to use. And if you're going to use interrupt 21, as I've said, this is one of the more powerful interrupts in assembly language. You just have to know which interrupt function you need to call. And if you want, this is the book that I've been using since baliktad. Let's see. There. This is the book. You cannot see. Prentice Hall. Oh, yeah. It's the name of the book. This is my book since college. So this is my name here. It's Eugene. But that I'm not the author. But when I was in college, this was already this one is soft bound. So I had it hardbound and I put my name on it, and actually it's not me. I'm not the author. So I've been using this. Oh, here, there. So this is by Peter Abel, the book. So this is the one I'm using. So but nowadays you don't have to use books because most of the resources you can just find them in the internet. But this is my Bible when I was still in college. So during, as you can see, during the fire, got damaged, fire damage, but it's still very useful. Okay, so anyway, let's see the program. It's very quickly. So here I'm going to run. So there, as you can see, Ateneo de Zamboanga. There. So Ateneo de Zamboanga was run again. Let's run it again so that you will see. You look at the upper left corner of the screen. Okay, run it again. There, Ateneo de Zamboanga. It's being printed. So supposedly it will be supposedly printed in the real printer, but because this is just an emulator, so the program is just being emulated. So you just have to imagine that the Ateneo de Zamboanga is being printed. So let's discuss the code very quickly. So here you have org origin 100. You just tell your emulator, in this case the emulator, but during my time it's the assembler, where to save the code in your memory when it will be run. So you have jump start, but before you start you have to define some things here that you need to define. So in my case I define the memory location. So with the content Ateneo de Zamboanga University, you might call this memory location, some call it as a variable. So after that we go to the meat of the program, the main program. So I have a function called 40 for interrupt 21, move AH 40, and then this one BH, this is by default. I'm just telling the interrupt 21 to print something for me. And then this is the counter, how many characters. And then Leia, load effective address DX Hezi. So it, and then interrupt 21. So that's it. Actually there are many ways to print, but this is just one of them. I'm using interrupt 21. You can, I think there's an interrupt 10 there that you can also use. And then here, before it will exit, I just put these two codes. It's keyboard input with without displaying, so just like a pause. Okay, so this is just a program. So we could have done more programs and manipulate I/O, input output devices connected to our computer, but we will be limited to just being shown what will happen. We will not really see what will happen to the hardware. So might as well not no longer discuss them, but we will just discuss some other codes that especially those codes that requires logical thinking. Okay, so with that, I'd like to thank you for listening and watching the video.